Clayton Kershaw last night, that's exactly what he did. And he's done it over and over and over again. We talked about it last time that he had his last start, that they were going on a losing streak. That he pitched on Friday for the Padres series, and he just shoved. So that's after coming off of a 3-game sweep and a loss to a Toronto team on the Sunday that looked really bad, a 4-game losing streak. And when you need somebody, you go to the Hall of Famer. And they did it once again here, losing games in Colorado, and Clayton Kershaw just put a stop to all of it once again, and the offense came alive.
Something I was thinking about after yesterday afternoon's game in Kershaw, another good performance. We've talked a lot heading into this year, or heading towards the playoffs, once Kershaw was back, and he's been surprisingly good all season, surprisingly effective since he was brought back. There's been this question of, would you put Kershaw in the playoff rotation? Would you put him out there? It's starting to become now, would you not put him in the rotation? Because he's been actually, I know he's older. I know the stuff isn't there. I know he doesn't look dominant the way we think about like a playoff starting rotation.
Yesterday, so there's that.
But he actually has been more reliable of late than all the other guys that we're assuming would be in the rotation before him, that for some reason we feel more confident about.
Yeah. So he's the Hall of Famer. He's the guy. I thought he was coming into this season saying, give me the 3,000 strikeouts, and then I will just basically fade off into the distance. Maybe have a couple more starts, and then something will happen. I'll get injured, whatever it happens to be. But he's been solid all the way through. He has been one of their best pitchers, and he's also has the second most innings on the team, I believe. Like, for a guy that's 37 years old and really towards the end of his career, the fact that he's still being that reliable guy for the Dodgers is incredible. Now, when you say playoff rotation, who do you take out of the rotation? Because typically in the playoffs, you go 4 guys. You don't do 5. So you're going to have Yamamoto, Glasnow, Snell, Ohtani. Where does Kershaw fit in all that?
You take Ohtani out.
Take Ohtani out? Where are you going to put Ohtani?
As a DH?
Just hit? You think
I think he did it last year. Why not just have him hit with how Kershaw is pitching right now? He had a good one against the Padres in their last series. I think it's 4 straight for him right now. How do you not have him in the rotation?
Here's one thing on Kershaw's side that Ohtani doesn't have is that he can get through 6 or get out of 5 innings.
Yeah, okay, yes.
He can go deeper, especially if your bullpen's the issue here. You want to, especially in the playoffs when the hitting is going to be better.
Yep.
When the bullpen just pitches least amount of innings as possible. Ohtani can't get as far as Clayton Kershaw can right now. So maybe it's a better option if you're going to try to do that.
So that's fair. Absolutely. But they are ramping up Shohei right now. He has not gotten through 5 yet. He's gone into the 5th inning once. He didn't get through 4 the other day. But the fact is they're trying to push him, ramp him up before the playoffs to at least 5. And then in the playoffs, the thought is that he can go 6. So it's whether or not he can get through that, that's going to be the conversation. But at the same time, that's how long they want to go. And Kershaw is basically a 5-inning guy. He has gone 6 and 7 recently, but in the playoffs, that's totally different.
But here's the thing, though. Why is it different in the playoffs that Kershaw wouldn't be able to go 6 or 7? Because we're assuming that since he's older, it's the case that he can't get through 6 and 7? So, because the evidence is that he can.
The evidence in the regular season, yes. We have seen Kershaw a lot in the postseason, and in the postseason, Kershaw's numbers, typically later in games, more so than earlier in games, is not as good. Look, if he continues to pitch like this, they may make that move. It seems like they're ramping up Ohtani, and when Ohtani is on and he's going good, he is not only one of the best pitchers on this team, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball.
Yes.
So if you can give that out now, the only argument I would make for you that to that side is that, and to your side is that he's not good the day after, and he needs a day off the day after. So you cannot. He either has to pitch the day before an off day, or you can't pitch him.
Well, but to Sua's point earlier when he said just have him play DH because that's what you did last year and you won the World Series. Something I've been thinking about a lot with Ohtani in general, something I know I wanted to talk about while you were here for First Pitch.
Yeah.
I have been wondering a lot lately because the last couple starts for Ohtani have been his 2 worst.
Yes.
The more they have been ramping him up and asking more of him, the worse he has performed out there. Like, yes.
Well, yes. So
there's no way around it. The answer is yes.
Okay, so if you look strictly on numbers, sure. Yes, you're right. However, that game That game the game before, the game got away from him in the 5th inning. So that he had not gone through. It was through the first 4, he was cruising, and in the 5th inning, it got away from him.
The more they are ramping him up
Sure.
to ask more of him, the more he has been struggling. He also has not been a two-way starting pitcher for a few years.
Yeah.
You start wondering at 31.
Fatigue is real.
Have we reached a place where this is starting to maybe become too much for Ohtani?
No, I don't. Do you have, what do you think?
I'm on his side. If it's too much for Ohtani and given the injuries, I don't want this to leak into his effectiveness hitting. Like the moment it becomes a problem for him offensively, I don't want him at the mound anymore. And that might sound crazy because he is so talented as a pitcher, but at the same time, is it worth risking the next 2, 3, 4 years of a championship run?
Sure. So yes, so no, you don't never want to actually risk his future. But I don't think any of this is actually risking his future. The fact is that he is ramping up, and we always forget too that he did all of his rehab starts at the major league level.
Right.
So his 10 starts that he's had, they were all like the first 5 were his rehab starts in AAA that happened to be against regular starting pitching. So I mean, he's going to have ups and downs.
But those were also though some of his best performances when he was doing less.
1 inning, 2 innings,
right.
3 innings, and you have to get to a certain point.
His stuff was great.
His stuff was great, but it was when he was asked to show less of his stuff.
Right, and honestly, and Andy, you brought this up.
He's still missing a pitch, by the way.
Your meeting, our meeting this morning, is that the reason. So there's a reason why people don't do the rehab starts in the major leagues is because you can only go 1 or 2 innings. Again, it's against major league players, and it really stresses your bullpen. And it might be the reason why our bullpen, or the bullpen for the Dodgers, has been so poor is because they've had to pitch more innings because Ohtani was doing 1 or 2 innings as opposed to going to the minor leagues. You can't use his.
His starts have basically been high-profile bullpen games that are really awesome and fun and exciting, but the bullpen pays a price for this.
It wasn't just Ohtani, though. A lot of starters were only going 3, 4 innings and maybe even getting into 5. You lost Snell, you lost Glasnow, you lost a lot of pitchers in that situation where you were having guys that you were having openers and guys going only 3 innings along with Ohtani, and that really put a lot of hurt on the bullpen. So now you're hoping that everything is worked. But to talk about Ohtani still within him and his pitching, again, the last start he went through 4 and he cruised through that 4, and then he got in trouble in the 5th inning and they pulled him early. This one in Coors Field, you really can't go too much on Coors Field because it's just such a different park, and the way that the ball comes off your hand is different. The way that things move is different. So I don't think that I take those with a grain of salt. So you're going to have a bad outing every once in a while. Every pitcher does. So the next one, if he can go 5 in the next one, and he continues to go 5 throughout the rest of the season, and then it gets to a point where he can go 6 in the postseason. That's the guy I want out there. He is one of the best pitchers in baseball when he's right.
How many more starts will he have?
So we are on. There's going to be. It's probably the 1 a week. So that's
like
what is
4
that?
more
5,
starts?
4 or 5. Yeah,
That's
5.
not a lot of time to ramp up to be in playoff performance.
So
that being said, when you asked us like who would take off of this rotation, adding Kershaw and taking out Ohtani, it's hard not to also picture what Kershaw is like in the playoffs.
Yep.
Like the lasting images of Kershaw are him slumped over in the postseason. And so would you rather have a Kershaw that has been playing well in the regular season, can only go a certain amount, but also you have all those playoffs in your mind, or Ohtani, but then you might lose him the next day, or it has to be an off day the next day? It's kind of a rock and a hard place with that last spot.
Well, what's also, though, really interesting about that with Kershaw is if he's not in the rotation, I don't know what he does at all.
So that's a very fair point because he's not going to be coming on the bullpen. We're not doing any of that stuff. He's not going to be your long reliever. That's not going to happen. But
right, like I don't think he has a role if he's not in the rotation, and if he doesn't have a role, like larger picture, that could be the thing that forces him to retirement. Because I feel like, and I think you would agree, there's a better chance that Kershaw would have retired after last season if he had been a part of that World Series run. Because then you get to exit on top with a ring, presumably one that he played a role in winning. Like, that's a perfect way to go out. You have to at least consider it if you're Kershaw.
Sure.
But then watching the whole thing happen without you can be a really strong motivator to come back for one more ride. He's doing this for the playoffs.
Yeah,
He's not doing this for the regular season.
I would agree with you for the most part, except that he was, I think, like 27 strikeouts away from 3,000. So he was going to come back this year to get those 3,000 strikeouts. So I don't think there was going to be some retirement there because of just that. But the conversation around where he should be the first series,
well,
it
he
won't
might,
matter
but
anyway.
if he had never gotten hurt, he might have already hit 3,000 strikeouts.
Well, yeah, but either way, no matter what, he would have been. I see what you're saying, but either way, he's here now. The conversation is there. The first series won't matter. When it gets to the division series, right now they're in the wild card. Wild card is only 3 games. The division series only 5 games, so he's not going to factor into those. It's going to be when they get to the championship series and the World Series. That's when the conversations really happen. It's really going to depend on what happens over these next 4 or 5 weeks. To M's point, that if he can't get through those 5, if he's just going to be a 4-inning pitcher, that might change their thoughts on whether to go with Kershaw there or not. Yeah.
What?
No, I cannot see Ohtani coming out of the bullpen.
Okay,
in any sense.
Let's talk about that coming up next, because regardless, the Dodgers are getting back 2 really important relievers this weekend.
Yep.
Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates. They will both be active over the course of this weekend. Scott tonight, Yates Saturday, I believe. But then there's that question of Ohtani and whether or not he could potentially come out of the bullpen. Mark Pryor was on Dan Patrick, shared some thoughts about that. We will get into that coming up next. Andy Kamenetzky, Sua Cravens, Greg Bergman.
And this has
been that question of whether or not another arm could be added to the bullpen. And his name is Shohei Ohtani. Mark Pryor was on Dan Patrick, and that topic came up.
Can you see a scenario in the postseason where Ohtani comes in relief?
It's a good question, very fair question, and it's been discussed, and it's really understanding kind of the rules of him coming in as a reliever, and knowing that because of the rule, the way it's set up right now as a starter, he can come out of the game and still maintain as a DH. But he comes in as a reliever. You got to find that line of where hopefully the game ends, because you can't put him in the 6th and then take him out as a pitcher in the 7th and keep him in as a DH. So it would have to be a situation where it was probably, we think the game's over and he's closing, or be okay with him not hitting anymore. So that would be really the only scenario. Can I see it? Absolutely. But it would probably be closer to the back end when the game's, kind of on the line, and it would be over after he's done.
So that's interesting. That's actually really interesting that he's even thinking that it's a possibility that this is something that could happen. So to your point, Sua, that if they want to have him in the back end of the bullpen and as a closer, I just don't see it. I mean, I know he's leaving the door open, and I appreciate it, but if you use him as a pitcher, as a relief pitcher, and lose him, you also he can't do it 2 games in a row. Like, it has to be.
Are we sure that
Game 7 of the World Series?
Are we sure actually that he can't do it 2 days in a row?
Like, he can pitch 2 days in a row?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really asking.
Most pitchers, in relief.
In relief, like,
most pitchers.
This feels like an assumption because he's a DH and he does 2 things, but I don't know, and obviously it's hard to know because there is no comp for Ohtani.
Right.
Like, he's one of one in terms of how he's used and the things that he does. But I don't know if we actually know that he can't pitch multiple innings over a series, like 1-inning stints, that he can't do it. I don't know if we actually know that he can't.
We're not going to get to know, because if he only has 4 or 5 more starts, we don't know how much that arm can really do at this point. We keep using the word revving up. I think it's too late in the season to experiment with something like this and then also lose his offense. I just don't think it's a gamble worth taking if you have Kershaw who's pitching well.
Right. No, 100%. Going into the bullpen role, that it just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. The only thing where it does would be Game 7 of the World Series. It's over. You have days off afterwards and all those types of things, that he's just closing out a game. Sure, I could see that happening. And like Mark Pryor said, you lose the bat in that game. If he screws up, if let's say it's a 1-run game, he gives up a home run, the game's tied, and you take him out, he's done as a bat. You lost him.
Here's what I think, though, is really interesting about this. That Mark Pryor says it's been discussed.
Yep.
The why it's been discussed is what I think it's really interesting. Like, internally, why would they even be talking about this at all? Is it because they want to try to find a way to put, say, Kershaw into the rotation, and they recognize Kershaw can't come out of the pen because he doesn't have the stuff anymore. Like, he does not throw hard enough to make him a reliever. So it's either start him or he has no role at all. So they're thinking, okay, what's the way that we can go about having both of them? Is it feasible to have Ohtani come out of the pen? Or are they wondering this because they are concerned as he ramps up and starts throwing more innings, more pitching, the returns become more diminished. Like, they're starting to not get what they want out of him after he starts going 4 or so innings. And if he's a pitcher if he's a starter that you're penciling in for 3 to 4 innings max, that starts becoming not tenable, not practical for what they want. So that's the thing that I would love for Pryor. He would never talk about this publicly, but I would love to know privately, why are they discussing this? Because if it's something that they know they can't do or they know they don't want to do, Pryor would have just said, that's not what we're doing. We're not doing that.
You leave everything open, and I think you have to discuss every single possibility.
But if they know that they can't, for example, like they know like this doesn't work.
They would just shut it down.
Right.
But then if they shut it down and it becomes a situation like Walker Buehler last year where they used him in the 7th inning or the 9th inning of the Game 7 of the World Series, then they're
right. But with Walker Buehler, but with the difference,
he wasn't pitching. He wasn't hitting.
Right. With Walker Buehler, it's a matter of we want to as opposed to we can't. It's either we want to do this with Buehler, we don't want to do this with Buehler. There's no can't.
I think they want to leave everything open to the possibility, and that, yes, if you are closing out a game and it's Game 5 of the DS and you know you're going to have 2-3 days of off time after it, then maybe they use him in that situation, because especially in that he's not going to be one of the 3 main starters anyway in the DS, and maybe even the 4th main starter. It could be. But either way, like, if you want to use him there, I get it, and as long as there's days off in between. So it is going to be a possibility. Especially, okay, let's say it's the wild card series, and where it's only 3 games, and he has to close out a game in the 3rd game. Mm-hmm. Yes, throw him out there, but it's ramping up to be a reliever and ramping up to be a starter are 2 different.
Yeah, the logistics
mindsets.
Also too of when Ohtani would
there.
warm up while DHing is in and of itself probably tricky to figure out. I would just love to know all of the different pluses and minuses that go into figuring out, would we want to do this with Ohtani? Because, again, if it's something that they think is just ridiculous to do, so they would just say, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
Like, they wouldn't entertain it if they didn't at least think that there could be an upside to doing it.
Yeah. I mean, we have all these questions about Ohtani with so little time to figure out what the actual answer could be to these questions. So I just feel like the stars align. I'm going to keep saying the stars align for Kershaw to be in the rotation. You've already proven that you can get the job done without Ohtani pitching. If there's this much back and forth about it and you know, ambiguity on the subject of him pitching, I just think it's easier going with Kershaw.
I just think that if you're trying to win another World Series, you want your 4 best pitchers available in a series. And if you can have Yamamoto, Snell, Glasnow, and Ohtani at a fully ramped up Ohtani, 5 innings, 16. By the way, Kershaw only is going to go 5 innings, most likely. He can, if he's really, really on, he can go 6-7. But we've seen throughout his career, even when the Hall of Famer, all the Hall of Fame curveball, all that stuff, 7th inning was something that he just fell apart in. So we don't want to get him to that point. So if Ohtani's ramped up through the last 4 or 5 starts and he's at 5 innings and Kershaw's at 5 innings, give me the guy that has the better stuff.
What's so interesting to me about with Ohtani and this season and the ramp-up period with him starting is as much fun as it is to watch, and as amazing as it is to see Ohtani be able to do this and at times look just dominant on the mound and at the plate in the same game, the reality is the Dodgers have very little to show for his starts at all. Yeah. Like they are sub 500. He's 0-1. But remove like the decision piece of this, they're below 500 in games that he has started, and it's not all him. That's not my point.
Look at Yamamoto's stats.
Sure,
it's probably very, very similar.
No. I'm not saying that it's on Ohtani. The majority of Ohtani's starts, he's pitched well. I'm just saying for all of what they've gone through and the certain amount of concessions and things like that to allow a guy to ramp up, essentially do again a high-profile bullpen game, they actually have really little to show for it in terms of tangible wins, which, again, it's not a reflection of Ohtani. I think it's more a reflection of all of the process that's gone through bringing Ohtani up to this point they don't have actually a lot to show for it.
No, they don't have a lot of show. They have that he's up to 4 innings and going into the 5th inning, and that hopefully over these next 4 or 5 starts that he gets through 5 innings. That is what you have to show for it. That he is as ramped up as he can be this year, Ohtani, going into the playoffs. But I will tell you, Kershaw has been so good, and like what he did this year. He was a stopper last time. He was a stopper last night or yesterday because it was midday. But what he has done has been incredibly impressive at his age, and what he's doing is he's still a very, very good pitcher that can get outs, and this really shows. So you're kind of like in a great spot here. One's going to still be amazing, and the other one's going to hopefully be amazing. Like, you have 2 great options here. This is a situation that not every team has. You're going into the postseason most likely with 5 number 1 starters. I don't know if Kershaw's number 1 anymore, but still, the fact of the matter is he's a Hall of Famer who can get guys out in a consistent basis. So it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I mean, and none of this matters. If Ohtani ends up showing us in the last month that he's back and going to 5 and he can pitch, then Ohtani, and it is what it is when it comes to Kershaw. But if there's any more questions and back and forth and uncertainty on Ohtani's arm, I just think you have the perfect opportunity to put a bow on Kershaw's career, to go out on top.
Yeah.
As you were saying, you won a chip, you've got the 3,000 strikeouts, and he most likely retires if that's how this plays out.
If the Dodgers win a World Series, I would be stunned if Kershaw doesn't retire after that. Absolutely stunned. First pitch, Greg Bergman.